the harsh reality behind the rhetoric. For years, the pundits have fed us a narrative that starkly contrasts with the truths we witness with our own eyes and ears. The gap between what we're told and what we experience has grown so wide that the narrative has finally started to shift. We went from hearing how America has never been stronger under its current leadership, how our president was supposedly at the peak of his political prowess.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box. The only thing age does is help you with, creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers. We're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
To suddenly facing a new story. Now we're told that the president is in significant mental decline, just weeks after being lauded as sharper than ever. Enter the latest chapter in this evolving tale.
Thank you, Joe!
The heroic torch, passing by a so-called political warrior who supposedly saved the country from ruin and is now, in his magnanimity, handing the reins to his chosen vice president.
There are those who are unable to see what can be, but there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles? Right. And then let's just see where they overlap. You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those 3 circles, how they overlap? I love Venn diagrams, so I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, you know, the 3 circles. Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
This is the same vice president who, until recently, was dismissed as the one person so unqualified that even the most ardent supporters feared her ascending to the presidency if the president's cognitive abilities continued to deteriorate.
Happy birthday, great president. We know your mom's always with you, all the time. But all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum. She might have something to say about Delaware State.
How did we get here? Who are the true architects orchestrating this madness behind the scenes? For years, we've heard whispers of a shadow government, a deep state pulling the strings while politicians serve as mere puppets, spewing divisive rhetoric to maintain control.
I proudly served as the 52nd Secretary of Interior, and despite the deep state's repeatedly attempts to stop me, I stand before you as a duly elected member of the United States Congress and tell you that a deep state exists and is perhaps the strongest covert weapon the left has against the American people.
Is this why so many politicians amass immense wealth while the American middle class continues its downward spiral? Could this explain the selective prosecution and government overreach targeting those who dare to question the edicts and mandates that were once dismissed as fringe? Is the disintegration of our educational system intentional, designed to produce a more compliant and less critical population? Does it explain the unchecked immigration that has pushed our cities and neighborhoods into chaos?
The group well-armed and forcing an apartment door open and making their way in. This has raised concerns amongst residents and Colorado state law enforcement officials. The city of Aurora is issuing a statement today in the wake of national attention following the video's release.
In this video released to Fox 5 News by the NYPD, you see a group of young males believed to be migrants allegedly on their way to commit a crime. The NYPD says a current young migrant robbery pattern is a driving force behind the increased boots on the ground here.
The present migrant crisis is quite unprecedented. both in scale, in the diversity of the nationalities that are coming to the border, and the impact it's having not only on the border states, but in the states and cities inside the country.
I think it's at this point politically unsustainable for the Biden administration to maintain this unlimited flow into what's essentially a welfare state network of cities like New York and Denver and Chicago.
And this crisis is expensive. In 2018, New York City spent roughly $258 million to fund its immigration services, adjusted for inflation. By fiscal year 2023, the city had spent $1.47 billion servicing those seeking asylum. The city of Chicago spent over $194 million on its new arrivals mission since October 2022. Denver is estimated to have spent between $36.3 million to $39.1 million on migrant support services in 2023.
How can anyone in good conscience justify a shrinking labor force even as the population explodes? The answer might lie in the true purpose of this systemic manipulation: to consolidate wealth and power in the hands of a few, while the rest are left to fend for themselves. Like all bureaucracies propped up by fiat currency, this one will persist only until it collapses under its own weight. The zero-sum game it enforces ensures that the benefits flow to the top, while the rest of us bear the burden. The truth is being buried beneath layers of rhetoric, and the silent majority remains willfully disengaged, heads buried in the sand, until the inevitable day comes when they too are forced to pay the piper. Consider Germany in the 1930s when Hitler rose to power. It was the silent majority that stood by and allowed it to happen. Their silence resulted in a nation reduced to rubble. What tale will the history books write as we witness history repeating itself? Will the mutilation of children under the guise of gender-affirming care be remembered as anything less than a modern-day equivalent of the Salem witch trials in 17th century Massachusetts? In business, survival isn't about winning a popularity contest. Success comes from surrounding yourself with those who are competent, who are focused on proving their worth through performance, not personalities. They take pride in outshining others, measured by their superior performance. Do you want a lawyer who is laser-focused on winning, or one who's more concerned with their retainer agreement, whether they win or lose? The answer is obvious. Choosing based on proven performance and a relentless drive to win will always yield better results than getting swept up in who's more likable. Those who constantly reinvent themselves to follow the latest trends will never be the solution. Remember, you're selecting someone to improve your life, not to be your bridesmaid. Life for all of us is grounded in good old-fashioned common sense. Surround yourself with competent people who refuse to accept defeat, and you'll see life improve day by day. If you're voting based on personality, rather than the substance of policy, then you're casting a vote for style over substance, which ultimately serves no one.